Prince Andrew has officially moved out of Royal Lodge, the 30-room mansion on the Windsor estate, where he's lived for over 20 years.
Everyone's talking about the eviction, about the screaming, about 5 words that a 66-year-old former prince reportedly unleashed on staff as he was physically forced to leave his $40 million home. But the most unsettling part isn't the words themselves. It's what those words tell us about a man who still, even now after everything, genuinely believes the normal rules don't apply to him. In this video, we're going to walk through exactly what happened inside Royal Lodge in those final moments, why the palace finally ran out of patience after months of what insiders were privately calling a siege, and how the Epstein scandal has quietly been accelerating every single decision made about Andrew behind closed doors. We'll also get into what happened on his 66th birthday, because that detail changes the picture entirely. And toward the end, we'll look at where Andrew goes from here, and why the place he's been sent says more than any official statement ever could. Let's start with the moment itself. According to sources who spoke to Radar Online, as it became clear that Andrew Windsor would have to vacate Royal Lodge, he didn't go quietly. He didn't accept it with any grace. He reportedly began screaming, repeatedly, 5 words, "I'm the Queen's second son." That was followed by another line, "You can't do this to me." Now, just take a second with that. This is a man who has spent the last several years at the centre of one of the most damaging royal scandals in modern history. A man who gave what's widely considered the most catastrophic television interview ever conducted by a senior royal. And in the moment he was finally being removed from a 31-room mansion at the palace's request, his instinct was to invoke his mother's memory as a shield. One senior courtier described it plainly. The remark wasn't made with humility or reflection. It was stated, they said, as though that single fact, being the Queen's second son, should have nullified everything else. It was described as more like a proclamation than a plea, edged with disbelief that he could be treated like anyone else. A royal insider put it bluntly. There was no acknowledgement of how he had arrived at this point, only indignation. And that tells you everything you need to know about where Andrew's head is. But this moment didn't come out of nowhere. What the headlines miss is how long the palace had actually been trying to get him out. Behind closed doors, the negotiation over Royal Lodge had been dragging on for months. It became so drawn out, so resistant, so entrenched, that those involved started calling it the Siege of Royal Lodge. Andrew had been living there with his former wife Sarah Ferguson, the two of them occupying a 31-room property on the Windsor estate worth an estimated $40 million. The king had been applying pressure. There were quiet conversations, formal requests, and then, by all accounts, something more direct. Andrew's position throughout was essentially no. He reportedly believed his right to remain was non-negotiable, that his status, or what remained of it, still gave him leverage. It didn't. The palace's patience had been eroding for some time, and those closest to the situation say the Epstein connection was at the centre of every conversation about why Andrew simply could not be allowed to dig in any further. Jeffrey Epstein's name has never fully left Andrew's story. It hangs over every public appearance, every palace decision, every conversation about his future. But in recent months, according to reports, the scrutiny intensified, specifically around emails sent by Andrew during his time as the UK's trade envoy between 2001 and 2011. That period matters. It overlaps directly with the timeline of Epstein's known activities, and fresh attention on those communications reportedly added another layer of pressure on both Andrew and the institution around him. The palace has consistently sought to manage the damage from the Epstein association, but with new material surfacing and public interest refusing to die down, the calculation shifted. According to sources, it wasn't just about appearances anymore. The feeling inside palace circles was that Royal Lodge, grand, visible, expensive, had become a liability. Letting Andrew remain there while new scrutiny emerged was sending the wrong signal entirely. And then came his birthday. On the day Andrew turned 66, he wasn't celebrating. He was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office and taken in for questioning. He was held for around 12 hours before being released under investigation. Let that sink in. Released under investigation means this isn't over. It means the process is continuing. It means that Andrew Windsor, a man who once walked royal red carpets, represented the crown in trade negotiations across the world, and lived in one of the most coveted private residences in England, is now a person of interest in an active inquiry. He hasn't been charged, that needs to be said clearly, but the distance between where he was 10 years ago and where he stands today is staggering in a way that's hard to fully articulate. And this is where the 5 words land differently. Because when Andrew screamed, "I'm the Queen's second son," he wasn't just defending a house, he was reaching for the last piece of identity he had left. And it wasn't enough. There's a version of Andrew's story where the Queen is still alive and none of this is happening. For years, insiders have described Elizabeth II as his greatest protector and, quietly, as his blind spot. She reportedly carried enormous affection for Andrew, the child she was said to be closest to, and that affection translated into shelter. When other royals distanced themselves, when the palace began to pull back, the Queen's feelings about her son complicated every decision. Since her passing, that shelter is gone. The King has a different relationship with Andrew. More formal, less sentimental. Charles has never shared his mother's particular attachment to his brother, and the decisions made in the last year reflect that clearly. When Andrew invoked the Queen's name in those final moments at Royal Lodge, those present were reportedly taken aback, not by the content of what he said, but by the conviction. As one account described it, it felt like an attempt to trade on her memory in order to deflect consequences. In the room, it landed as hollow as it sounds. The atmosphere, insiders noted, had changed dramatically. Titles and pedigree were no longer a shield to consequences. That era was over. So where does a fallen prince go? Andrew has been moved temporarily to Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate, a modest private property that is about as far from Royal Lodge as you can get, while still technically being on royal land. It's quiet, it's small, it's out of the way, and it is, by design, not permanent. The permanent destination, according to reports, is Marsh Farm, also on the Sandringham estate, where renovations are currently underway. That will be Andrew's home for the foreseeable future. Possibly, sources suggest, for the rest of his days. Marsh Farm isn't a punishment in any literal sense, but in the language of royal geography, where you live signals exactly how the institution regards you. It communicates something unmistakable. This is not a man being rehabilitated. This is not a temporary step on the way back to relevance. This is the end of a particular road, and the palace has chosen the destination carefully. Andrew knows what the move means. Those around him know what it means. And the fact that it took a prolonged standoff to get him there says everything about how willingly he accepted it. Among the belongings removed from Royal Lodge and transferred to a secure storage facility in South London, protected by CCTV, was something that caught the attention of almost everyone who heard about it: his teddy bear collection. Around 70 stuffed animals packed up and placed into storage. It's a detail that sounds almost absurd against the backdrop of arrests and evictions and Epstein investigations. But it's also, in a strange way, the most revealing image of all. Because packed into that storage unit, alongside whatever personal effects remain from a life of extraordinary privilege, is the collection of a man who, by almost every account, has struggled to fully inhabit the reality of his own situation. The gravity, as one insider put it, does not appear to have truly registered. What stands out across all of this is how consistent the behaviour has been. Different scandals, different years, different homes, but the same pattern keeps returning. The refusal to accept accountability, the invocation of status, the belief, apparently unshakable, that the rules are for other people. This isn't something that emerged during the Epstein scandal. It runs much deeper than that. Historians of the monarchy will note that Andrew isn't the first royal to fall back on birthright when the ground gave way. Edward VIII reached for his identity as king when the institution demanded he leave. The language is different, but the instinct is identical. That title should equal immunity. It doesn't. And it never did. The question now isn't really about Royal Lodge or Marsh Farm, or even the ongoing investigation. The question is whether Andrew Windsor is capable of truly reckoning with where he is, or whether he'll spend whatever time remains insisting to whoever will listen that none of this should have happened to the Queen's second son. Do you think Andrew will ever accept the reality of what his life has become, or has too much of his identity been built on a status that no longer exists? Leave your thoughts below. And if you want to understand how we got here, the full Epstein timeline, the Newsnight disaster, every decision that led to this moment, that video is up next. Don't miss it.